there's a little presidential candidate by the name of Beto O'Rourke, also known as Bet on My Stork. And he has officially dropped out of the race. He's no longer a presidential candidate. Hey, man, I'm a little sad to see him go, even though that we all knew that this day was coming. You know, somebody was telling me how he actually had kind things to say about Bernie Sanders recently, and you did start feeling bad for him over the past month or so because he was just flailing all over the place. I mean, not just literally with his arms, because he was also doing that, but he was flailing all over the place, and he was doing so poorly in the polls, and you could almost sense the desperation and the sadness on him. And as a human being, you watch that and you go, "Ugh, man, this is rough." And the main takeaway here is Beto was largely a media creation. So yes, he did well running against Ted Cruz for Senate in Texas. But you have to remember, guys, Ted Cruz is Ted Cruz. And he's like uniquely awkward and unlikable and weird. And also at the time, and I know this feels like a million years ago now, but at the time, Beto O'Rourke was running a Bernie Sanders-style campaign. He was pretending to be way further left than he actually is. He was talking about Medicare for All. He had ads out about Medicare for All and how he supports Medicare for All. And his main thing, he always spoke about how he takes no corporate PAC money, and he hates the big money, the corrupting influence of big money in politics. And so he was posturing his way far left. And then what happened was, towards the end of the election with Ted Cruz, he ran to the center. And he backed off of Medicare for All, and all the enthusiasm came out of his campaign. And listen, I'm definitely of the belief that if Beto O'Rourke never did the pivot, never shifted to the right, then I think he probably could have beaten Ted Cruz. He would have done it. And then when he launched his presidential campaign, there wasn't even a hint of, I'm going to try to take that left lane and be like Bernie Sanders. Again, no. He was pretty clearly planting his flag as a centrist. And then the only issues where he tried to outflank everybody on the left were issues where the polls say that's not an issue where you should outflank everybody on the left. So if you wanted to outflank everybody on the left on whatever it might be, unionization, on the minimum wage, on healthcare, whatever it might be, that's going to help you. And that's going to help you because the polls show it's going to help you. You try to outflank everybody on the left on guns, and you literally argue for gun confiscation, as he did, a mandatory buyback program. The polls on that are not overwhelming in your favor. Now, listen, if he believes that as a matter of principle, then props to him for just being honest and upfront about that. But my thought, the second I saw him do that, was, oh, he doesn't believe this is a matter of principle. This is a strategy. It's a strategy to try to get elected. He knows he has to outflank all the candidates on their left, but he needs to pick an issue to do it. And the issue he picked was just the wrong issue to do it. You know, and this is coming from a guy, listen, I'm in favor of, universal background checks. I'm in favor of banning high-capacity magazines. I'm in favor of a cadre of gun reform proposals, all the standard ones, all the basic ones. If you want to say a voluntary gun buyback program, I'm with you. I think that's a great idea. Some sort of licensing system, I'm with you. But mandatory gun confiscation, mandatory buyback, I don't think even I go that far. So who are you appealing to? I mean, again, that's not a majority position. Mandatory gun confiscation, that's not something, even among the Democratic base, that's not necessarily. I mean, some people like it, and that's fine, but it's not something that's going to win you an election or even just spring you forward in the polls at all. So, it's that mixed with the fact that, listen, when you have a camera on you for as long as you do when you're running for president, you can't fake it. You're not going to be able to fake it that long because your true colors come out after a while. And the thing about Beto's true colors is he doesn't have any true colors. And I hate to sound so rude and mean here, but he's really calculating. He's really calculating. There's multiple layers of analysis. All he cares about is becoming president. And so he doesn't know who he is. Like, he's not just himself running for president, comfortable in his own skin, secure, comfortable in his policy positions. No. All of that other stuff is up in the air. And he will try to be whatever you want him to be to get elected. And you can't please everybody. And, of course, it showed, man. On the campaign trail, it showed that he kind of had no identity, was not secure in who he was not secure in his policy positions, wasn't even secure in his style. running for office. So he was just a little too weird and a little too calculating. And here's the saddest part of all. Now, is he going to run for the Senate? He says now he's not going to. I think he is going to do it. Okay, I think he is going to run for the Senate. I don't think he's going to win. He's not going to win. And Beto might struggle to get elected to any seat from here on out. Why? Because he's a politician in Texas, and he just ran on gun confiscation. So, I mean, you want to talk about digging your political grave. Wherever Beto runs, there will be a giant wave of Republicans on the other side to defeat him. So that means he needs to turn out his own side way more, especially in a state like Texas. And how the hell is he going to do that when he already backed off of Medicare for All? He already backed off of the positions that would fire up his base. So it was political mistake on top of political mistake on top of political mistake. And I really do think he may have shot his chances in the foot of being in any elected position from here on out, man. So that's the reality. And in honor of him stepping down, we have a video of Donald Trump at one of his recent rallies making fun of Beto. Take a look.
Oh, did you hear? Beto, did you hear? Beto. Oh, that poor pathetic guy. He was pathetic. Remember, the arms are flailing. It's all. Remember that? You know, he ran against Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz won. He spent almost $100 million. And Ted Cruz and I helped Ted, and we campaigned together, and it was good. But I used to watch him. Then when he came onto the really big stage, this crazy stage, I noticed he was flailing with the arms, and he was standing on tables. He was standing on countertops. I said, does he ever stand on the floor and speak? But he's waving his arms and going crazy. And I said, what the hell is he doing? What is he on? He made a total fool out of himself. And he came out of Texas, the great state of Texas. He came out of Texas, a very hot political property, and he went back as cold as you can be.
I mean, it's true. You remember his fundraising numbers? Initially, everybody's like, oh my God, this is a serious candidate. He's rivaling Bernie's numbers. You can only fake it for so long, man. You can only fake it for so long. How's this guy going to generate that genuine grassroots enthusiasm when he says nothing? He says nothing on the campaign trail. It's all an act. Again, I'm sorry if that's too harsh, too tough. I do feel kind of bad for him now, but yeah, it all fizzled out. It fizzled out relatively quickly. This is not a movement candidate. And probably the biggest lesson to take away from this, guys, is Beto was largely a media creation because they really hyped him up at the beginning, like, oh my God, he's going to be one of the front runners and all that stuff. You have guys like Nate Silver, Jennifer Rubin, the conservative from, I think, the New York Times. They were all like, yeah, Beto's underrated. Yes, and he's going to get all that grassroots enthusiasm, yay! And they were just wrong. They were just dead wrong. So when something is a media creation, when someone is a media hype, he's like the flavor of the moment. That's not going to last. That's not going to last. Because you have to keep it up and actually get people on your side, and they will turn on you at some point. And look at what happened with all the Republicans. When Trump won in 2016, they tried to force on us Jeb Bush. That lasted for 2.5 seconds, and then he faded into oblivion. They tried to force on us Marco Rubio. That didn't work. They even had a brief moment with John Kasich. And eventually they finally settled, okay, we'll take Ted Cruz over Trump. And they couldn't get him over the edge either. So the media, I mean, you could go back and look at the pictures, I think, from Time Magazine and others, where it'll be like a picture of Chris Christie, and it's like, Republican savior? No. Or Marco Rubio, they do the same thing. It's like, no. So, and this is why, as Bernie supporters, we need to be careful because sometimes we get lost and angry at the media because they treat our candidate like garbage. But in today's day and age, in a weird way, that might help them. It might help them because Trump got relentless negative coverage from the media and he won. So the real problem is indifference. That's when you hit the panic button. If they just act like you don't even exist, okay? And sometimes they do that with Bernie, and if they go all in on the indifference path, then we're in trouble. Because then it's like, if nobody ever talks about him in mainstream media, then people think like, oh, he must not be doing well, or, is he still in the race, or whatever it might be. But if they're attacking him, people know he's in the race, and usually the nature of the attacks are so incredibly hacky that it could help Bernie. Listen, I'm a big believer in if the media attacks you and there's merit to it, it could hurt you. But if the media attacks you and they're misfiring on their focus and what they're attacking you on, it could help you. And so with Bernie, I think there's a chance that the dynamic backfires on the media and it ends up helping him that they treat him so terribly. Again, when they don't talk about him at all, when they're indifferent, that's a problem. But when they go after him and they have terrible arguments against him, that helps him. Now, in the case of Beto, it was all hype, but it was all bogus. There was no there, but they were still trying to pump him up. And now he's out of the election before even the Iowa caucus. Wow, who'd have thought, man? So there you have it. Bet on My Stork is gone, and our big beefy president is making fun of him.